Hello, we're going to make Hello World International. So last time I showed you how to use the toolbox, and by double clicking I can place a label on a form. And I also showed you how you can take the properties, which is in the right hand corner here, and change the properties. For example, in the text property I could write Hello World, and in the font property I could change the size and style of the font. Today what we're going to do is, instead of using the properties to change an object like a label, we're going to use an object that's going to change the properties of something else. So in this, we're going to make the Hello World International program. And to do that, I'm going to use a radio button. The radio button is right here. And if I click it, it says radio button. And I'm going to start by putting English, French, and Spanish as the text for each one. So I'm going to call this one English. And I'm going to do another radio button. And I'm going to make this one, the text, say Spanish. And then finally, I'm going to make a third one, and I'm going to make the text say French. Now, to code this, it's a pretty simple program. All we do to code this is, if I double click on an object, such as radio button 1 here, if I double click on it, it brings up a new window that says code. And in code, you can see some code that appears here. The code says private sub and end sub. And everything between private sub and end sub is the code that's going to run when radio button 1 check changed happens. In other words, when I change the radio button or click on the radio button. So the name of this radio button 1, what is radio button 1? Well, let me just delete the code here for a second and go back here. Radio button 1, you can see in the properties, is English, right? It's this radio button that says English. So what is good programming practice, and even though this is a ridiculously easy program to start off with, I still think it's a very good idea, and good programmers always do this, is they name their objects. So this object is a radio button, so I use 3 letters, RAD, the first 3 letters of it. So I'm going to call it RAD, and I'm going to call it English. And does this do anything to the program? No. But it's going to make it easier to use. So rather than calling it radio button 1, it's now going to be referred to as RAD English. The label here is called label 1. Instead of calling it label 1, I'm going to use the first 3 letters, LBL, and I get rid of the vowels. Typically we get rid of the vowels. And I'm going to call it label hello world. So label hello world is what I'm going to refer to as this object. So I'm going to do the same thing for radio button 2. So radio button 2 is going to be called rad Spanish. And finally, radio button 3 is going to be called rad French. Now, again, I've done nothing. But watch what happens. Now, because I've changed the name, when I double click on English, it says private sub, rad English is changed. Aha, so it makes a little bit more sense. For me to read the code as a programmer, I know that I'm changing radio button English. Great. Now I want to show you how I can change properties at runtime. So you know that I can change properties by going to LBL Hello World and changing the text or other properties. Well, I can do the same thing when I click on English. When I click on rad English, I can say that me.lbl hello world, and notice as I start typing, something called Intellisense happens. And what Intellisense is Intellisense will try to predict what you want to type. And if I want to type hello world, all I need to do right now is press the space bar, and automatically spells it correctly. And what you're going to find when you learn to program is programming can be very fussy, and one wrong letter can really muck up your whole program. So it's really a great feature. Now when I press dot, I'm referring to me, which is my program, and the label in the program called Hello World, and then the property I want is the text property. So I just type in text, and already it's highlighted text, so I can press spacebar and it will type in what I wanted, which was text. So the text in label Hello World is going to equal, quote, Hello World, because I clicked in English. Let me do something similar for French. And for French, when I click on Rad French, I want it to me.label.hello-world.text is going to equal bonjour, that means hello, and world is le monde, I believe. I'll double check for that. And I would do the same thing for Spanish. For Spanish, to say hello world, so me label hello.text is going to equal, and in quotations, I use quotations because it's a string of characters. Hola means hello, and mundo means world. Great, I'm ready to play my program, and when I click Spanish and French, it all works just fine.